Hmm. Okay, sorry about this delay, everyone. We'll be getting along to this very shortly. This is taking a little bit longer than I expected.
Haywood, oh wow, welcome.
Okay, perfect. Everything is now ready to go. Okay.
Turn on your voice, Howard. Your mic. Turn on the mic, Howard. Haywood.
Okay, so everyone, right, we're now ready to begin. Sorry for the very slight delay. So tonight's screening of Five Tigers, featuring director Victor Chin, who is here with me, will be is a bit of an interesting one for us because uh, because since we don't really have the capacity to screen a film in person right now, so we're going to have to do this virtually. Great. So I think I should say a few words of introduction about Victor Chin and who he is. So I think the best way to go about it would be to read his personal description from his website, which is very modest. So Victor Chin is a freelance painter, photographer. He writes occasionally and is also a documentary filmmaker who lives and works in PJ. His subjects are usually outside of mainstream interest and concerns, but they are based on real life issues about places and people. This is a very, very modest description of who Victor is because he takes on very heavy topics. We'll be hearing some of the topics as we go along, but for now, but I think you can tell just from this documentary that we're screening tonight, Five Tigers, is that he's not afraid to take on topics which are outside of outside the mainstream, topics which are usually relegated to the sidelines. Victor, would you like to say a couple of some very short words of introduction about the film?
Well, the film, as you also have introduced in the text before we start, is about the Five Tigers, a nickname Five Tigers, who were active in the Labour Party in Penang. And this film is about the life of three of those ladies who are still alive to talk to us about what the Labour Party meant to them and what it has made them to be, and also what they have done with the Labour Party and what it means to them to have been affected and encouraged by what they have learned from the Labour Party in their years when they were active in Penang in the 60s.
Okay, so that's a very brief bit. And in the film that we're about to show, which will be about half an hour long, we'll be featuring those three ladies in Penang, looking back at their past.
Enjoy the film.
Yeah. Oh, and also a few last words before we begin. Very last words, I promise. Today will be we're hoping that this will be a very interactive discussion. So it's completely no holds barred. So afterwards, what we can do is if everyone's comfortable with it, we can unmute the mics and actually engage with Victor one-on-one on questions that you may have about this. Okay, so everyone, I'm going to start streaming the film. 28 minutes, so it'll be 28 minutes long. You're going to see it, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay. All right, can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Let me know if everything's all right. Good.
Sound.
Oh, okay. Oh, the sound hasn't gone through yet. Sorry about that. Yeah, the sound should have gone. Yeah, I thought I set that up already. Hang on. So sorry. All right. Should be okay now.
Good.
All right.
故乡平安，探望我的老朋友。伊人住伫1960年代，甲我做一伙参加劳工党。这个是我生命中第一重要的一部分。当时，我人甲其他的男同志做伙争取各种的权利，是为了我人这个社会，也是为了我人的国家。这一大段来，我只有缘分见到5位好朋友的其中2位。我参加劳工党到当今，第一欢喜的就是劳工党是过了一个集体的生活，大家有真正对这个政党有真正一个理想甲一个，所以我人到当今本是有保持着这款的感情啊。大地方五虎奖，我是其中之一啦。但是我这5个内面的活动呢，对我到当今的感觉，本是讲真正有价值，真正有值得保存这款的友谊甲精神啊。
希望看到一出戏是，迄阵长江的一出戏是五虎将，所以内面是真啊厉害，所以我人这个五虎将呢，甲投机啦，所以我人后面就加去拼，加去做，所以称我人为五虎将咯。那些男同志啊，
是啊，他讲说我们很敢死的啦，什么都不怕的啦，
什么都跟人家出头的啦，
主要带头这样开始这样，
对，刚刚找我。
其实啊，在60年代啊，不少的妇女也是参加活动了啊。当时是这样，因为妇女在那个生活非常贫苦的情况之下，许多家庭是一家七口一张床，没有机会受教育，所以当时他们在有看到参加劳工长的时候，因为劳工长有提供文化班、汉人班合唱班、舞蹈班，在劳工长的领导之下，他们也有成立了妇女组。在妇女组的积极推动之下，他们参与学习，也参与群众的斗争。当时他们群众斗争是很多方面的，有到各个地方卖党报、发文告、做宣传物品。
3过后，我无做咩了，我甲隔壁的朋友真正好，伊规日也册我看，所以我规日看册看了，我迄大迄间厝有类师资班啊， 伊人看到我咧爱看册咧，就叫我出主也一条风叫我填入Labour Party 罗江东。
这边的社青团一样有家人文化班，了我知了嘛，我讲要去夜东府啊，去边读了，伊讲已经满了，样所在才下嘛满了，伊讲我招咯，也是讲有人咧真10人啊，好呐，就使带你厝啊。我教啦，了我就规个个招几个朋友啦，就一班咯。我的姐姐就讲，惊我变歹去嘛，就带我去参加一个劳工党。其实我未晓半项句的，你知无？就带我入去劳工党，参加这个集体的活动嘛，甲会好，甲会袂讲去参人歹嘛。所以我入去了，我是参加到伊的师资班，在迄边读册，在迄边跳舞。热情已经沸腾，要为真理斗争。
这边是龟缸仔鸡，客古是叫龟缸仔鸡，当今是叫加兰水尾菜。这个鸡煲都是双吉槟榔鸡煲，客古我人活动的所在咯。内面有拍乒乓，有伊人读册甲开会的所在，甲楼顶有家人学衫啥物咯。
我人去乐江东时，先去是主要是去读册，读个文化班呐。了去边，我先去是无咩任务个，去读册了去看人跳舞啦。我不是上款啦，因为带着上个一个兴趣的心，唔知讲迄个是一个政党，还是一个虾米。人有佚佗，咱就参加；人有佚佗，咱就去嘛。我是爽哦，所以我就是拿着安尼款的心情去参加。慢慢咧，我就有习惯去读着册，去学着真侪物件。所以我感觉讲，这个党袂歹嘛。伊会顾着咱，了个会人家样有宣传讲要顾去做啥物，所以我就是安尼款慢慢行入去咯。
我当时是互伊人一款的真理的理念就吸引着啊，真正有兴趣安尼款啊，对伊人的演讲啊，对伊人的各方面的活动啊，真正有兴趣啊，所以我就是安尼去参加啦。到甲样丢了的时呢。我的爸母惊，着禁着我，唔爱我出去。有一水我就离家出走去住伊人的位了，所以就煞去讲，我会带我出来叫朋友新家迄间美伦的店大顶大一个时期，所以是我的爸母过来叫我倒转去，倒转后讲放互我住，如果无管我无约束我了啊，我就安尼款开始活动。
我是武将时是64年，你甚至我入议会了。我人是带伫一个集体的活动嘛，你知集体活动就是甲了人做一下参，就是拢总人就是收捌了咯，收捌了结果就是有的会较讲较来的就会较好啦，做朋友；较无好呢，无安尼好讲话就较距离那个疏远淡薄咯。了我人规个男女都是平等啦，没有说你分男我分女，我们都是大家一起。大家拢总做一个讲话，所以无分男女的。五湖江本是慢慢在呢边嘅开始实捌啦。
特别讲5个查某有较特别啦，像讲无论是讲伊分我去摆档包子，一人一桶啊，乱去卖，还是讲叫乱去分穿搭啊，我5个就是举头啊分咯啊，甚至是街路写打字头举擦举虾米啊，我人阮是举条迄电擦啊对条样大布去写去一个咯大纸虾米啊，我人阮是5个，阮是 无惊死啦，半暝，一半暝本是安尼款去。
我讲我人唔爱输个打波，我对，你死人死啊，有闲要去做啊，你袂当包你想啊，我人不是真，我度也袂得坐了咯，伫咱法律基金啊，我们除了个法律基金啊，
我一间
我法律基金我有一个黑板啊，有什么队红旗队什么队什么队，这样我就队长，一个男的就做副队长啊。我们很要真厉害，所以我们真赢啊，所以我们那个指标一直上哇，今晚回到了我们上了咯，这个，所以我们一直要争先呐，不要说输给男的，所以我们女的就是一直拼咯，去拼咯，我说指标一直上啊，所以很高兴那时候。带着热烈的爱情，我漫步在辽阔的郊岭，壮硕的教书排着整齐的队伍，清丽的郊野，轻轻地。
就自从我参加老港党上嘅槟榔旗袍，叫做老爽啦。这个旗袍过后时来讲啊，就是讲我讲要伸进去伊人农庄人嘅所谓活动啦，无管是政治宣传组啦，还是文教组，还是康乐组啦，农庄来讲有参与啦。参与过程中啊，伊唔是讲即个一个查某尔啦。啊，而且呢，可是有1、20个啊，够真济嘛。但是呢，你看出来，伊人这个表现啊，与众不同啊，积极肯干，大公无私啊，能够带头作用。所以说，使到我常去领导这政宣组是展开隆重的活动来讲啊，真啊赢啊，真啊赢啊。所以这就是一个基础，所以。分布决定要做啥物来讲，我人会100%嘅完成，就是赢了呢。
这条街网做真正街道的示威啦，主要我哋会记的是美国侵略越南的一个示威游行啦，真正侪人参加啦。
我们要参加示威的时候啊，我们就好叫做明天要参加示威了，我们今天就号召了咯，号召一些学员呐、一些同志，他们没有来活动的，就去他们家里通知他们说，我们明天要示威了，几点，地点在哪里，我们就预先通知他们这样咯。我们参加示威，因为我们要示威之前有一个迹象的，因为我们的家是属于联络站这样的，很多人来了，所以人家一来通知我妈妈就很敏感了，知道了要游行了，他就讲说早就煮饭，叫我们你们一定要吃啊，饭才吃，要不然抓去没有饭好吃。再看看群众呢，我们那边很多群众都很普遍，有些谢员的家长什么这样，他都很支持我们的，一直到我们游行出来了咯，好像示威党的。一结束了，他讲你们回去了，是我们的世界了，他就拿油桶来拦那个路啊，等一下就有个红旗跟青旗啦，真包得来就拿红旗出来，你们帮我出来的嘛，拿青旗你就可以出来走的了，所以示威党那时候很支持我们的。当年是1965年2月13号，我们是为了抗议这个民主死亡。所以我就是第一次参加这个示威，因为那时候58万被抓，让我们争取人权，就是在那个吉隆坡马都路那不路马都路有一个总部，就是那时候是我们党部党部，那时候我们游行就在那边集中，他那边好像后来他从那边上面楼上丢很多那个旗布条给我们拿，一开始的时候我们就走了，有 一组4个人这样拉手走，沿路都是很多那些群众啊，那个水啊摆到很多两道那个两边那个街啊，就摆很多，就走一段路就走了，就走到一个地方，真抓不住就来了咯。差不多是在59年跟60年之间，我们为了争取教育平等，因为他要以华文列为官方语文，所以我们发动全马来西亚的人来示威抗议，反对，一路喊一路要，我们要争取教育平等，我们要争取华文列为官方语文。
当时我们有为了要争取男女同工同酬，我们就抗议要求政府列为5一劳动节跟3·8妇女节为公共假期，我们就将出来抗议政府没有把这个法令把这个列进要修改列为这个公共假期争取男女同工同酬平等地位啦。包括我们示威游行抗议那个紧急法令无理扣捕我们的同志，他可以随意抓了加一个罪名给你，扣留14天不用审讯这样的事情咯。
我人是无惊虾米，主要是惊一条面部下水了，虾米事佮就因为伊惊人会吹咧等来，所以迄个面部下水是帮我人会自己保护自己，了个爱顾边仔的人，佮加载一两条顾了边仔的人了。较早是阮甲了白头鬃的，放两条尾，所以讲就避免互你整地步掠啦，所以叫阮定定要加头毛啦，所以阮甲了加头毛了嘛。去也是，阮其实是阮党是随着咧把车，随把车了，阮一顶车，半暝就行车了个。所以阮头一顶车，去啊一路直直直直，阮爱死个了，死啊去个了。所以阮去到时无车头一顶阮到，所以到的人到了未很贵，落掉了未贵了。阮去到边阮顺利咯。团结就是力量，团结就是力量，团结就是力量，团结就是力量。
我们劳工党呢，可以讲起来，整个组织大部分的成员都是来自劳苦大众基层，知道吗？尤其好像我们爱淡水区可以说大部分都是那些农委还有升级山这些山顶这些群众比较多都是劳苦大众的比较多这些方面。所以他们呢，一加入他们对我们，而且劳工党的政策就是要争取平等，为社会争取平等，所以说会得到各那些劳苦大众的支持，所以他们也同意劳工党的那种政策了。所以说，可以说大部分，而且我们是很深入到那些地方去帮助他们处理很多东西好像桥坏了，我们会跟他修理；路坏，我们也会跟他修理。我们不但修理，我们还要去筹钱来帮助他们做。物质坏，我们也会帮助他们修理。所以说，群众对我们这种跟他们一起工作、一起生活这种他们是真的很支持我们的
除了政治活动我人 迄个戏台啊，大都有迄个真正爱国的戏啊，有教育性的戏啊，无论讲长城还是凤凰的戏啊，我人都会讲规间的戏台啊，全部是。左派人士啊、党人士啊、学生啊，甲了会使讲包甲规间戏台是我人去看的出去。
我人除了看戏娱乐，我人阁有集体去野餐，像甲讲去淡水门那海边啊，了我人招所有的党员，了甲我人的学员集体坐一顶巴去伫海边的位，买煮物件去迄边去happy佚佗迄边安尼看咯。了我逐暝活动个真晏啊，11点就时啊，巴肚枵了吃宵夜咯。大埔查某唔去啦，咱大埔有钱哦，做工，我人有做工无济钱，我哋食炒米粉、红豆汤、口罩一样大埔啦，绿豆汤。大埔咧人食鸭腿面线，食好料啦。听讲你伫旗袍，你甲屏风的关系真好，你第时开始拍拖。开始的时是师傅摆的嘛，来参加劳工党师傅嘛，一起活动咯。所以是有朋友讲我的关系无确立起来啊，了后尾是就人讲了嘛，甲建立这关系咯。了所以是我就对去白啦太平，所以是我69年的时就交因咯。
我嘛是甲伊无来往，是知讲伊是北海的旗袍，但是伊来槟榔拄着安尼拍一个招呼尔，无啥物。了是后来呢，伊用甲野爱带去我的厝坐，了就是安尼款，伊去在我的厝了，伊就点点来找我坐，安尼款开始咯。到甲我人结婚，若要结婚3、4月子，伊就过身了，了我就有心了。我生活就是安尼靠家己，我无摕伊人出来搬钱来帮助，我是家己亲手来饲这个囝，讲甲伊台湾7年读到硕士毕业啦，
自力更生啊，
自力更生，艰苦起大。
我在甲恁妈会大了啦。我人生活是真浪漫真爽。我人拍拖的时佫较好了，我逐暝是10点几转的时啊，我一头无对厝搭开车，到你搭开车的时手佫牵手拿去搭开车，了去拍拖就爽，了结婚以后我人生活每是真快乐，但有两个囡仔了，我生活真欢喜真好。不过囝仔真伊对我真关心我，真爱我，我生活是无问题啦，安尼款了咯。我们学习海燕，海燕勇敢擅长。我们学习海燕，海燕多坚强。风吹雨打，我们什么都不怕，我们只管向前冲，冲过黑暗，冲冲冲。
那4大元帅是男人的啊，是他们那个比较高层的这个领导者。那么五武将呢是纯一色女性，而且是比较有这个所谓的有地方性的一种这个无形的社会运动，而且你们所扮演的那种领导作用。所起的这个示范行为呢，的的确确是为当时候的这个妇女运动我不说是这个工人运动，我指的是这妇女运动呢，是揭开了新的一页
同胞今天我来讲，劳工党马来亚2个党动唱，劳工党人民党合成 人注意真仙当呀，咚锵叮咚锵。
我人过去这款正义的活动呢，到甲当今应该是算做真正成功了啦，因为我人对议会的斗争是已经无信心了，所以就转入给街头斗争咯。到甲街头斗争，政府都无办法，就掠到了真正济人咯，就将我人的党放弃，这个就是我人的成功吗？
我是讲，是讲无照我人安尼款做啊，我人无讲去。在咧落工党啊，安款啊受咧教育啦，了当今嘛出来咧哈，阮真济物件，阮迄个群众啦，因为未晓看法啦，伊问题。到选举啊，不选的，那几年呐，我问。分换政府啊，我本是投票，所以为朋友啊，我隔壁厝边话讲啊，唔爱选哩，当今选他们人不是上的，甲我上只类，我讲无上的，当今这政府别甲咱人坎坷，咱生活坎坷，所以你对政府也未换落，就讲伊无好啊。
这50年咧，我阁是家己讲，我人过去的活动真正有意义啦，真有正义感甲这款的活动对我人到当今本无半点的后悔的呢。
Thank you.
Okay, great. So my sound's back again. So thank you, sir. I suppose the first thing we have to say is
sorry about the film being lagging, but that's I'm sorry about it being the way it is. I guess this is because this is the first time we are streaming it, and it's quite complicated. Take your time and watch it on YouTube another time. But the lagging of the film just now has taken away some of the quality of making the film.
Oh no. How was it lagging? Was it lagging a lot? I couldn't really tell because I was the one who was playing it on my.
It's lagging when I'm viewed from my machine. I do not know about others watching.
I see. Okay. Well, hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not. Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't too bad for everyone. But I guess this brings us to the important part of discussion, the important part of tonight, questions and answers with Victor. I think I'm not sure where to begin because there are a lot of areas where we could jump into a discussion. But I suppose the one thing that would help everyone is if you told us how this project started in the first place. How did you?
I have a suggestion. We break it up into 3 parts, maybe. The first part is maybe we can talk about the making of the film, some of those technical part about filmmaking. The second part is about the content. What was the content of the film and whether the story came over. Then the third part would be the aspiration of this sort of film. What kind of stories that are sort of being told and not told, and what this kind of film can contribute to those untold stories. Break it down to 3 parts.
So I think that's why in this case, in terms of the making, so how did it begin? What was the genesis of this project?
Well, at some time of this evening, you may like to show the making of the film, which I just did. I just uploaded 6 minutes of the making of the film, but I don't know when you were going to screen it, but it could be also seen at another time. But we could just.
I was thinking it might be. I was thinking actually that the making could actually be a nice conclusion at the very end. But then now I think it might be interesting after being. I guess after watching for half an hour, we can also talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Like, how does that sound?
Good.
Okay, great. And I suppose like in that case, then how did the how did it come about in the first place? The idea, the approach.
Well, this is 2018. This is two years ago, and the news of the 5 tigers came out on the social media, and I was at that time impressed by the news, and then I happened to know Hong Hyung, whose mother is one of the tigers. I was doing a job with Hong Hyung at that time. So I told Hong Hyung if we could explore this idea of making a film of the 5 tigers. This was how it started.
And as for the making itself, then how long? Yeah, what did you find most challenging about it? Because I mean, you had to get the 3 of the 5 tigers together to discuss their experiences from them. What was it like talking to them and everything? So like because these are people looking back on the past and the activism that they were part of. Was it an emotional event?
Yeah, it helps a lot because Hong Hyung's mother was one of the 5 tigers, and immediately we have a good source of information. And she was still in touch with the 5 tigers in Penang, but only 3 of them are able to join this documentary. So the problem was made easy because Hong Hyung's mother was still in touch with some of her friends all these years through 60s, 70s, and 80s, and she happened to be staying in KL at that time. So it was not difficult connecting with the rest of the tigers through the good will of Hong Hyung's mother.
And I guess in terms of because I mean when it comes to what they were doing, a lot of it was very personal, and I mean it's also tied to a political aspect as well because these were young people who also sacrificed a big chunk of their youth towards I suppose towards activism, towards fighting for reform.
Yeah, that's the second part, talking about what this film is about. Maybe we should just keep to the technical part of it at the moment, the making.
Yeah.
Say, for example, what were some of the problems of making the film in Penang, for example, right?
Yeah, I think that's how we talk about that.
How a filmmaker goes around looking for locations, how a filmmaker goes around for a while doing their research and doing their scouting or recce and whatever you call it, to look for the right locations to portray this film. So it took us quite a while, but we were lucky, as I said in this short documentary about the making, we were lucky to find a very modest hotel just off Hutton Lane, and just off Penang, Jalan Penang is on Hutton Lane as our location for all the three ladies together. So technically, making the film was made easy because we were all staying in this budget hotel, because this is, as I said, a low budget, a do-it-yourself, self-funded kind of project.
What was the biggest challenge you faced? Because I mean, because this being a very low budget, again, like a self-produced project, and you also like working on very minimal funds and everything. What was the most challenging part about that?
Well, to do a job well, a good team, a normal team would be, there is the director or co-director, and there's the producer who looks for money and budget and all that sort of thing. And then you need basically a cameraman, a camera person, and then you need a sound person, and then you need an editor, and then you need finally the sound post. So you need 5 different groups of, team. In this team, you need 5 basically. So because we had to double up doing both directing and also the camera work for my part, and Xiong Feng was doing the producing and also doing the sound part, and Hong Hyong, first time directing with us, have also got to do all the interviewing. So the difficulty was actually, because we were doing something for the first time, trying to find a way to work quickly and learning on our feet, as it were, to get the job done.
Okay, and in terms of, let's say, going to scripting and everything, because this is a documentary, so I mean, that's not really like a script per se. How did you end up putting together like the narrative? Was it like intuition, or was there like a deeper process involved? I think
there are many ways of making a documentary. Like there are many ways of writing a novel, or there are many ways of doing anything. And of course, there are standard ways as well that can guide you to say you need to have a script, to start off with a script. We didn't, because we like you say, documentaries allow an opportunity to go out to look for your material, but you have to know what you're looking for to begin with. So we spent a couple of weeks before starting the production, reading up, researching, and also compiling sets of questions to ask the three tigers how they were at that time. We need to ask the right question so that they can give us and describe to us in the most sort of straightforward way. So we had to prepare a set of questions beforehand. So some of the things which we have done is actually a good set of questions to begin with, to guide us to make this film. Then the editing part, which is a later part, but the first few we shot for 10 days. making all the sort of filming it for 10 days in 2 parts. The first part was 5 days, then the second part we went back again to do some of the shots which we needed when we started to work on it that we didn't have.
Okay, I think that gives us a fairly good overview of the challenges faced and I guess the art of putting it together. Would you?
Then maybe I can say, take it down to say, okay, after you have shot the 10 days, you get back home to your studio, and then you then sort of go through all your footage, and that's really a time-consuming thing. You go through all your footages, see which are your good shots and which are your not so good shots, and what are the sound quality of each clip. And then from there, all those clips are transcribed. We typed out all the sound, every word they say. Then from there, then we lay out all this lists and also video lists and numbers that we have. And then the magic starts. You put one frame or one shot before the other, and then you sort of, it's like a collage, you know, it's a jigsaw to begin with. And then at the beginning, you really don't have a picture yet. But as you worked on it, we worked on the editing for about 3-4 weeks, slowly at our studio in PJ on a modest PC, because even though we have a budget for an editor to come in and help us, but we still work in a very modest little home studio in my home. So the editing part also is a very tedious but important part in making the film. So it took us about 3-4 weeks to put a story together.
Yeah. And I guess when it comes to actually getting the film out, because I mean you premiered at the Freedom Film Festival. Was that a difficult process? Because it's one thing to make the film, but then it's another thing to actually give it a show.
Yeah, so after we've got our first cut, we then went back to Penang to show the Three Tigers and their group, their ex-Labour Party people, and asked them for their views to see what they think of our film. And we heard their suggestion, and then we came back to make some alteration and some new edits to make the film from their suggestion. So when it was ready, then the film festival, the Freedom Film Festival came in time in September. So we submitted our film, and luckily they accepted our film as one of the entry from the local filmmaker. And of course, the Freedom Film Festival is an event that promotes social justice through films. And so our films was a kind of found good company in that festival.
I was thinking this, since now you brought up the meeting with the Labour Party. This actually like segues very nicely in talking about the content. Shall we move on from the technical aspects?
All right.
Great. So now going into content, because I know the film is not about the history of the Labour Party, but then again, I feel like this opens up a lot of discussions into the work of the Labour Party and when it got banned, and basically like I guess the sort of like the kind of spirit of the times when again like I guess like in many ways I feel like the demonstrations in some ways felt a lot louder than they are today. There seems to be a lot more fire behind it, because now it feels in some ways that we seem relatively apolitical in comparison. I'll say, so in your case, because you've seen multiple generations in your lifetime, is there any overall comment that you have on, I suppose, the legacy of the Labour Party and moving on until today? I'm sorry, it's a bit of a broad question, but
well, okay, I'm not the best person to give you a good take on the importance of the Labour Party. But from a filmmaker, from an artist's point of view, from my layman reading and also finding out, the Labour Party came on in 1951, and then it was dissolved in 1973. It had 20 years of action in the local political climate. And they were, in 51, they were already very active when the British were still here. They were already organizing what you call political consciousness of the labor section of the community. Those who work in the rubber estate, those who work in the shoe factory, those who were just laborers, they were very active trying to help the workers, not just to improve their, get better pay or get better working condition, or to demand for safety in their workplaces. So, and they were also developing a political consciousness of the local populace at that time, which didn't exist because the British were here, really 50 more years before that, has subjugated the locals from ever speaking up, and anybody who spoke up had to be punished from the British at that time. So the Labour Party were very important in creating and developing political and social and community consciousness at that time. And it has contributed a lot in the sense of being able to act as a sort of opposition party in the political climate of our country. And it, of course, from then on, it led to many other political opposition party has been the roots of the Labour Party's early work. So Labour Party contributed a great deal. And also, you see, they at that time, those in 60s, okay, from then on, it went on to the 60s that say these 5 tigers they got literary classes, they were taught cultural background and interest. They created a kind of, they had picnic, they had lots of sort of community building. This was grassroots community building for nation building. They were saying, let's do it together, let's come together. All the different races were included in some of the activities at that time. So this was a very early sort of important role that the Labour Party has done. And I think we have a lot to thank them for all the different aspects of their work at that time.
And this one, so my question now relates to again, like again to the film and how it relates to this history. Do you feel that by making this film, you were able to share this, to basically share the story with the younger generation? Do you think?
Yes. Yeah. So you see, this film shows how they first got to know the Labour Party, and what the Labour Party was doing. They enjoyed joining it because they can learn how to write and read. They learn how to sing and dance, and then they learn how to also go to take up political issues, from getting better pay, better working condition, to the Vietnam War, to all the other political issues in the 60s and 70s and 80s at that time. So for me, this film humanized the Labour Party from its member, from the grassroots. It's not a theoretical, not top notch of the Labour Party. This was real ordinary members, women for that matter. These were the early sort of political consciousness building which the Labour Party did. And this film tries to show that the life of ordinary party members, which were big number at that time, at the height of the labor movement, there were a huge number of labor members from different, from the rubber estate, from the tin mines or whatever, or there were big numbers of people being helped by the Labour Party at that time. So this film takes you through an ordinary life of Labour Party members from a humble Penang neighborhood who benefited and sort of built friendship and also political consciousness and developed a sense of social justice, you see. So they were able to go on the street, learn how to demonstrate, learn how to deal with the police arrest, not be afraid to sort of speak up and ask and demand and stand up against power. And that kind of situation, I think we should be proud of. These are our early dissent. These are our, what you call, resistance, early resistance.
Like a precursor?
Yeah. So this film tries to show that in the 60s, in fact, there should be a film about the 50s, the resistance movement as well. And there should be a film of the 70s and 80s and even now. So there are many films that we can do that will encourage, continue our sense of political consciousness about resistance. I think we have to encourage people to stand up and fight for basic social justice. What's wrong with asking for better pay, at least a better basic pay? And what is wrong with asking for better working condition and security of workplace? What's wrong with asking for freedom from oppression and freedom from sort of subjugation and freedom from slavery, for that matter?
I guess there's one more thing about, because I just realized it's 9 o'clock, so I think I should hurry a few. I think I should only limit myself.
Sorry, I went on a bit.
No, it's fine.
Anyway,
no, it's fine because it's because this is a topic that does need a lot more conversation on, so it's perfectly fine. But then the other thing I found very interesting again is when you put in like the personal aspect into it, it really humanizes the story, because you see these it's not like, because I feel like in historical narratives you tend to lose sight of the people behind the story. You see only the statistics, the data, the record, but you don't really hear their voices, you don't hear their stories per se. So this was interesting because you see this you see this these three women just recollecting everything, singing songs that they were taught all that time. Do you think that's, as a filmmaker, do you think that's that helps to actually like humanize the story, just having those like personal touches?
You're absolutely right, William. And of course, there are many ways of making a film, just like there are many ways of telling a story. And of course, there's the academicians who have theoretical stuff and all the other stuff. But there are many ways. A film, and also even in the film, you can do it in many ways. I feel that if you humanize it and personalize it, the story gets through you go under the skin of this, how people live. And that's very important, you see. And I think films, I can't speak for all these filmmakers, but I personally think that if you can humanize, bring it down to your experience as a person, how you suffer, how you were in prison, and how you were tortured, and what happened to you physically, psychologically, and how you recover from all these issues. If you can portray it, the film has a personal voice to it. Now, I think some people like it, maybe others don't, romanticize it. We are not. We are actually speaking the truth to power in that sense. Yeah. And
on the subject of speaking the truth to power, what are your aspirations for this film? Because now that the film is out in the wild, so to speak, then it can be discussed, interpreted through various different lenses. But as the filmmaker, I guess on behalf of the film crew, what are the film's aspirations? Well, I'm very happy to have done a film which describes a small part of our Malaysian history. And now we have a history of dissent.
we have a history of resistance. And so I hope that this history of resistance, which is still a relevant resistance for social justice, for simple, better treatment of the working class. Of course, the elite will look after themselves by, you don't have to worry about them. But the rest of our community, the 99% of our populace, are struggling in many, many, many areas, untold misery. And I think, well, a film like this, which describes how resistance took place in the 60s and how we had Broussais in the recent years and all that sort of thing. Of course, we hope to have well, that Malaysians would, those who are still able to have this spirit of resistance, to speak up and to stand up against power, whatever the consequences may be, is there and will continue, I think. Because we need to continue. Our country is just one small part of the huge global problem of oppression of many types. So we need to, well, the film hopes to encourage people to continue what you call make life better for more people than just the elite and the powerful and the aristocrats and all the other top-notch.
I think that sums up, I suppose it sums up your ethos very well.
What are the comments like? I don't know how it looks.
Okay, so now it's a good time to actually open up some questions to the crowd. If you're here on Zoom with us, then it might actually be easy. It could be quite interesting if you actually unmute yourselves and you can ask questions directly to Victor. How does that sound? I think it will be quite fun. So at least we can try to approximate the live view of an event a little bit. So don't be shy if anyone has any questions. Now is a very good time to ask away. Okay, there's one question in the chat. Okay, it's a comment from Ping. Julian Assange must be getting contagious, speaking truth to power. Any questions, anyone?
Hi, I was wondering, hi, Victor, thank you so much for sharing your film and answering questions. My name's Sarah. I'm actually watching from New York City, so happy to be able to catch the events online. I wasn't able to catch the beginning of the film, but I noticed that certainly certain appeals of feminism and equality between men and women were one of the big things that attracted, it sounds like, the Five Tigers to communism. Were their expectations of kind of gender equality met in their experience within the Labour Party and sort of like kind of general leftist politics, or were some of the expectations disappointed? Or I'm originally from Sarawak, so that is a bit of my background in this conversation. I hope that makes sense. Does my question make sense?
Sarah, do you mind saying it again? I didn't get the first part of your question.
Yeah, I was wondering, I noticed that some of the women talked about gender equality as one of the reasons for why they were fighting. Did they experience gender parity or equality in the Labour Party and in the kind of leftist or socialist movements they were organizing within or building community within? Or did they feel like there was still elements of patriarchy in their experiences?
Yeah, see, from the film, they all say that there was a lively competition between men and women. And it was usually friendly. It was not competitive as such, but they were all keen to take part in their political consciousness. They were driven by a will to make life better for everybody. So it was an early illustration of equality of gender, equality of race, equality of labor. There was no hierarchy. If you know, they get together to build a house, build a bridge, go to demonstrate, and you divide whoever who is good at doing certain things. There was no real kind of division, which illustrates very well that the Labour Party at that time were very fine illustration of the spirit of equality in every sense, I think.
So the leadership of the Labour Party was pretty equitable in terms of gender ratio?
Yes, I think they were equal number. I don't know the statistics, but from what you see, usually from the experience of the 60s in Penang at that time, it was quite mixed. It was almost.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Does anyone else have any other questions that they'd like to ask at this point? Any questions at all? Okay, I think I'll just check on Facebook to see if there's any questions over there. Okay, so far there's no questions on Facebook. So on Zoom, so there's no last questions.
I did have one more question.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was just curious around like ways in which race, ethnicity, how that played out also within the Labour Party. Was it predominantly Chinese in terms of its constituents and members, or was it fairly multiracial? You may have said that in the beginning. I'm sorry if I missed it.
Well, I don't know the details, Sarah, but from what I can, from the film, from our sort of 60s at that time in Penang, at that time, it was, but if you look at the Labour Party history throughout the years, the 20 years that they were here, they were in every part of the country. And after independence, you know, they were still allowed to be very active in the political scene until they were systematically subjugated and, you know, suppressed because they were demanding for very simple things, which is, you know, freedom from oppression, freedom from exploitation. It is just a simple demand for a sort of egalitarian sort of society with a reasonable amount of social justice. So the Malays, the Indians were all in it as well. It was not just a Chinese thing. There were very strong Malay labor movement at that time under different names. And there were very strong other political party in conjunction with the Labour Party, which is part of the whole group of opposition parties at that time who spoke up against power. And that is very impressive. It's not just a Chinese thing. This thing about you know, trying to find a sense of self. It's not just a Chinese thing. It was a Malay thing, Indian, the Eurasians, so whoever who were here. We all want freedom from oppression and subjugation and oppression, especially exploitation of labor. And we are still being, those labor people who are working in the labor situation now, Chinese, Indian, or Malay, are all exploited. Look at them, we can't even get a consensus of a basic minimum wage. How can you live with 1,200 ringgit, man? That's a shame. This is still like 60 years ago, 50 years ago, from the British era. We have continued to rule with the British has left us. Then our political leaders who took over continued to rule like the British and it's got worse with all the British hangover and all these exploitative politicians manipulating and making a huge amount of money for themselves, but the rest of us, go to hell.
Thank you, Victor.
You're welcome.
Sarah, thank you for the question. And I think Ping, do you have a question for Victor?
Yes. Can you see me? Oh, I'm new in Zoom, so I'm not sure what numbers or what I should be pressing to get.
Don't
on.
worry. I think this is good. We can hear you, so that's okay.
Okay. Now, you were speaking.
Ping, turn on your camera. Ping, turn on your camera.
My camera?
Yeah.
Is it on?
You turn your camera on.
Now, how?
Go to the camera and press it. The icon.
Press it? Is it on?
No, not yet. Not yet. Try again.
If you go down to the lower left of your screen, next to
lower left.
Yep, so it's on the lower left. So there's actually like a video icon. There's a camera icon next to the microphone.
Plus, minus?
Okay, no. Actually, I think we might just have to leave it without the video. But I think
okay, look, I'm not that, I've got a few gray hairs, so that might not come out too well anyway.
Look at mine. Look at mine.
You mentioned about workers' rights being oppressed without very low pay, etc., etc. My understanding is that Malaysia is a member of the International Labour Organization, etc., etc. Surely there must be some parliamentary channel you can make sure that the Ministry of Labour would try to be consistent with what they subscribe to if they are signatory to the International Labour Organization. I mean, I can understand they need to have wages on a lowish level so that they can become more competitive in the international market as far as manufacturing, etc., etc. But as you say, if the government subscribes to the International Labour Organization, they must, at least pay some lip service to be consistent with what they supposedly stand for.
Well, Ping, you're right about all this international agreement. There is the World Workers Union, blah, 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 blah. And there are lots of rules and regulations, but they're all theoretical and they're all just, policies. On the ground, on the street, in the factory, it's a completely different picture, Ping. The politicians and the businessmen and the manufacturers and blah, 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 and all those have their own agenda, which is to make as much profit as they can, which is not necessarily a new thing. It has come from the colonial period.
It's called capitalism, I think.
It comes from the slave trade. It comes from the colonial trade. It comes till now. We are continuing a kind of exploitative practice in terms of labor. We try to extract as much as we can without paying as little as possible. So this is actually my take on it. But of course, you're right. There are so many regulations. There is all this, but in actual practice, it's hard to reconcile this. It's much more difficult than this film is trying to tackle. Way out of my station. I'm going to sound very stupid talking about of this subject if I carry on.
Am I still on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So no, look, I'm actually quite impressed with the video. I mean, I don't want to go into semantics these days, but when you say this is a film, but technically you're using digital technology, right? So.
Sorry, Ping, I use film, video, and production all sort of like a Rojak. Please excuse my sort of mixed up terminology. It is video, it's a film, it's actually, don't pick hairs with me about it, please. It is a video, it's a film, it's just a documentary, but it's made from a video. So it's also not 4K. It's very low resolution when you come to YouTube as well. So please don't judge us too harshly.
No. On the contrary, I find it very inspiring that we've got 3 women, working class women, back in the 60s, where, as you know, in the 60s, they were having a cultural revolution in China. They've got the feminist movement. They've got the Vietnam War, the rock and roll, and everything is happening. And I'm actually impressed that there was some rally against the Vietnam War in the footage. So actually, I'm quite impressed that there are some international issues that are being canvassed on the streets.
You see, the labor movement, the Labor Party was linked with all the international Labor Party movement around the world. This was not an isolated Labor Party history here. They are party networking throughout the world, Labor Party movement. So they are aware and alert of what is happening. And my light has just turned off because it is the limitation of my system that it tells me, hey, it's time to close shop.
Okay, well, I better give you some time to canvass other opinions from other people in this session.
Okay, thank you so much, Peng, for that. That was that led us to some very interesting discussions over that. And I suppose it's ultimately it's interesting, like how international the movements were. And I mean, like we don't live in isolation. Any last question? Perhaps one last question from the crowd, because it's surprisingly already 18 minutes over time. I'm so sorry for the running over time, everyone.
William?
Oh, hello.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Victor, first let me congratulate you on your effort.
Thank you, Jomo.
And
thank you, Jomo.
You're most welcome. You deserve it. And I really hope that you will be able to follow up this effort with related efforts. I noticed that you successfully worked with Tan Kim Hong, who has done quite a bit on the history of that period, largely from a perspective of Penang. But there's so much more to be covered of this period. And it's quite important to recognize the unevenness of the struggles in different parts of the country and unevenness of the repression. A lot of the repression of the 60s began during the mid-60s, during the time of Konfrontasi, when a number of people, including people from Balik Pulau on the other side of Penang Island, were arrested for opposing the creation of Malaysia, which was really came about as a result of a British proposal. In addition, there were a number of other proposals which were quite significant. Most importantly, quite a number of other developments, Vietnam and so on were also important, but the repression begins before 67, and the major leaders of the Labour Party, both at the national level as well as at the local level in Penang, were actually arrested in the mid-60s. So this would be, I think, useful to document. And I was very impressed by the archival material you have unearthed. And obviously these were not from official sources, but it would be very interesting to pull a lot of this together for a history of that period. In addition, there's of course a lot more to tell, and I just want to encourage you to continue your fine work and fine initiative in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Jomo, for your kind words of encouragement. And I also have been inspired by the kind of work you do yourself over the years to help promote a much more sort of political consciousness through all your work and publications and your sort of public intellectual role you play. Of course, you're right, Kim Hong, I don't know him well. It was the first time I've met him, and he was pleased to give some comments about the small part these 5 tigers played. But I have yet to get to know him, and I plan to meet him. But what you have asked me to do, I don't think I'm really up to it. I'm already 72 years old. I'm actually very near to, you know, the December of my life, and I really hope the younger people, like how you have yourself encouraged younger people to do the sort of work that you promoted, will pick up this idea that we should continue telling the history of resistance in our country, and it's important to keep this fire going. And the Labour Party, even though it has disappeared, there are all kinds of opposition parties here which speak up against authority, speak up against injustice. These are important things to do. And it's not necessarily my role to look at the history of Labour Party, which I think deserve, of course, a much more thorough look in different ways. But we are very happy to have introduced a humanized story to that vast, important period of the Labour Party. We hope to meet you sometime and talk about it.
Okay.
It will be my pleasure, Victor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor, for sharing your thoughts. I think that actually ends us on quite a nice conclusion. Victor, what do you think?
Well, William, I really am very proud that you have, very proud of you for initiating this project. And I hope what you're doing at Garab Budaya, which is, of course, a very important institution, which for the last 20 years have been systematically promoting and to encourage kind of documentation through books mainly, and now also talking about films about an alternative views to looking at our general picture of our country. It's a great place that you're working in, and I'm very happy that you are sort of working there now and doing this kind of public discourse when you have time. And I'm very pleased that you have introduced this kind of new program to Garab Budaya, and I hope it will reach a broader audience, filmmakers, writers, singers, dancers who use their tool to express concern for social justice.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's really the least that we can do. Just doing our job, I suppose. Great, thanks. So I guess I'll just have to wrap up with a few short words of conclusion. The one thing we're going to do after this one's entirely optional for everyone because the making of this film is also available on YouTube. But I was thinking today can actually be we'll wrap up nicely by this very short premiere. It's about 6 minutes long. 6 minutes long, and I mean like both the making of this film as well as the film itself, all available on YouTube. So it's all, well, basically public domain now, so anyone's free to just access and learn. I'm also obliged to say a few words of advertisement on behalf of Garab Budaya itself. We're actually in the midst of our Merdeka sale, so whereas books are going for as low as 10 ringgit, some books as low as 90% off actually. So if anyone's ever around the area, do drop by and do make a purchase. We've also got a few other discussions coming up during this Merdeka Malaysia Day period. So that includes one discussion on September 12th with quite a few personalities. Those would be Dr. Chandra Muzaffar, Dr. Wazir Jahan Karim, Professor Syed Farid Alatas, Judge David Alfred, and Ms. Trisha Yo. That's a Facebook Live event on September 12th. And tomorrow, if anyone has time, the NGO MyCare is actually hosting a launch of a book that we co-published about the Rohingya refugee situation. So that's at 9 o'clock tomorrow. We may also be having a book launch for a book launch of a short book on. It's not a strictly scholarly book on the history of Malacca, but it's quite an interesting account. So that's probably happening. It's probably a live event, but it might be happening on September 12th. There'll be more information shortly. Okay, great. So without further ado, I'm just going to play the film now. It's about 6 minutes. And if you have time, if you're not too tired, do feel free to stick around for it. Okay, so just 1 second. All right, Victor, this is your premiere of that film.
Sound.
Yep.
Good.
The making of this film was a self-funded, low-budget, do-it-yourself kind of project. With a basic video camera and sound recording equipment, the three of us became the crew. Hyung Hong was the co-director and was also doing the interviewing. Seong Fong was the producer and was also handling the sound recordings. I was the co-director and was responsible for all the camera work. Working together for the first time was not always easy. But we learned quickly how to overcome the difficulties we met each day. We had to constantly find a suitable camera location to get the best shot. We also had to pick the location that are not too noisy and where to place the mic correctly. We had to try asking questions in various ways in order to get spontaneous answers. It helped tremendously that the three women, Mulan, Su Jin, and Siu Hong, were very responsive and cooperative throughout. We were lucky to find some good locations for our filming. The crew and two of the protagonists happened to be staying in a budget hotel along Hutton Lane in Penang. It was an old bungalow that was recently converted to a hotel. We found the interiors of the hotel suitable for a few of our interviews. The hotel management was happy to allow us to use the space to do our work. The rest of the shots were done nearby the hotel. Some were done in the homes, associations, and restaurants. We did not start the project with the shooting script as it is usually done. Instead, we spent a couple of weeks beforehand researching and preparing a series of questions relating to the history of the Labour Party and its members. The three women told their stories vividly and enjoyed recollecting their common painful and joyful memories of that period. Sometimes the recording was done in one take, other times it required repeated efforts. Back in Petaling Jaya, the editing process took another 4 weeks, and it was all done in a home studio with a PC. We first sorted out all our footages into manageable sections, and then transcribed all the interviews. This was a slow and painstaking process, building up the story line by line, and then video clip by video clip. There was a budget for a film editor to join us, and also for the sound post-production. After we had done our first cut, we took the film back to Penang to show to the 3 women and also to some of the ex-Labour Party members. The group was happy that there is now a video documentary of a small part of their history. The archival photographs of the Labour Party of Malaysia added a lot to this film. With some final adjustments and editing, the film was premiered in September 2018 at the Freedom Film Festival in Petaling Jaya. This event promoted social justice through films, and our contribution was in good company with the rest of the films. This film has been screened in several avenues in the country and also in Singapore, and it is now on YouTube. Our documentary film was about Malaysians in the 60s who stood up against the authorities to demand for better pay, working conditions, and freedom from exploitation, oppression, and subjugation. What they did is still relevant to us today.
Okay, and yep, I suppose that's kind of the premiere of that part of the making of. So
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, William. It's a good job. I really appreciate your effort and also your intellect and your energy and your commitment to using Garak Budaya as a public institution for building political consciousness.
Not to worry. No, just doing what we have to do. So yeah, I guess it's 9:30. Well, half an hour overtime, so I think it's probably time for all of us to get a rest. Okay, so once again, Victor, thank you so much for your time, your effort, and we're glad to give this a second showing after the Freedom Film Fest.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. So everyone, thank you for being here until the very end. So if there's any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them on the video, which the link to the video is on our event page and everything. So, and we hope to see you again at future events. But until then, everyone, have a good night, and we'll hope to see all of you again very shortly. Okay, Victor, good night to you. Thanks again. Okay, good. All right, signing off for now. Okay, take care.